Good morning, everybody. John Spiekla here for GAI Insights, bringing you the top news that's essential, optional, or important. Today we've got Ashish Bhatia from Microsoft. Great to have you, Ashish. Always informed and in-depth. Luda Kopakina, Paul Beyer, and Ankaj Handa, who I think is having connection difficulties. Anyway, got some interesting articles this morning. Let me see if I can't get the first one up here. Okay, first one's on Gemini 2.5 Pro Preview. And let's see. Okay, Ankaj, can you put the first article up? Or do you want me to do it? Here.
Just give me a second to bring up my screen.
All righty.
So the first one that we have for today comes from Google, and it talks about Gemini 2.5 Pro, which has better coding performance.
Yeah, quite amazing little videos here, doing everything from reading video instruction to adding new features easily. What do you think here, Ashish?
That was very interesting. My overall kind of rating is trending important. A few things that kind of stood out for me were specifically around UX coding or UI coding, right? So that at least what Google is claiming in the article is that that's a kind of step up, and this model is much better at kind of UI coding. And then video to app was very interesting for me. So for those reasons, I feel kind of it's important for folks who are kind of writing applications or creating these interesting user experiences, right, for applications. It could be a very good step up for them.
Yeah, I this for me is in the category of everyday miracles. I mean, it's just amazing. Thinking back to like fourth level languages and things like that. Now you can just take a video of something you want, and the machine generates it. Anyway, so we got an important going here. What do you think, Lou?
Yeah, well, I can back important. It's a preview, right? So it's in anticipation of the big Google conference coming up, and this is one of the announcements towards it. But there's real contributions here, and it's good that they're detailing them in those videos. So I think it's important for the developers to know about what's happening here. Important.
All right, Paul, what do you think? You're usually on the more cynical side of these product announcements.
I am, but I'll support important. I do think it's interesting, though, that I want the AI leader to continue to understand how fast everyday miracles are occurring in this dev area, software coding, because I think we're going to start seeing that move to other areas. We kind of see the ID equivalent of marketing and sales and everything else, but it's breathtaking. Yeah, and Ashish, the video, the code, it's hard to get it's hard to get my monkey brain around that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that in a certain way, the entire world is like a barcode now, because you can just read anything.
Yes.
And get to it. All right, important it is. Ankaj, next.
John, you've said that 3 times this week. You need a Forbes article on that.
Good deal. I will get at it. And thank you, Adam, for putting up our articles. We forgot to mention that. And please do like and subscribe to our channel if you're on YouTube. All right, Ankaj, next, please.
The next one comes from JPMorgan and talks about how AI helped them boost sales, and they added clients in market turmoil.
All right, Luda, what do you think here?
I rated this as important for the following reason. It's a really serious indication that the AI engine is starting to really work and generate results in production. So we've been covering giants in this industry: JPMorgan, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, and they were all putting this machinery in place. But here, it's birth by fire, right? When there is a flood of inquiries in the downturn of the market, and these tools are really helping and responding with the personalized information. I think it's an important article, an indication that this is working. So important for me.
Yeah, I mean, you have to remember just how important this product line is and service line is for JPMorgan. For them to say that they think they're gaining market share among the wealthy in a volatile market, that's quite amazing.
Yeah.
In terms of its impact on their profitability, I don't know what percentage of the JPMorgan Chase's profitability comes from their private clients, but I would be willing to bet it is, well above any other service line. In terms of volume for sure, and maybe in terms of just incremental margin. Anyway, Ashish, what do you think here?
I had similar sentiments as Lou. I mean, this is kind of the largest bank here in US, and they're generally it's a regulated industry. They're also very measured and kind of calculated in terms of adopting these new trends. So they're standing up and saying they're able to create value for themselves and for their customers using AI. This is something to kind of take notice of. So for those reasons, I would say, yeah.
Yeah, Paul, where are you on this?
I'm on extreme essential. So this is a company that's in the crucible. This is a company that's regulated. This is a company that's already been adopting it quickly. Pause right there, John. Right there, that client. They expand their client roster. They help financial advisors, that's a human, expand their client roster by 50% in 3 to 5 years. So we're talking about taking teams of financial advisor, adding robots to them, and expanding revenue. And they're saying this publicly and with confidence. And so it's breathtaking. And this is where this is going here. And this is for such, and lastly, it's for an area that human to machine, we don't think is going to work here. Oh, this is my financial wealth, and I'm going to give it to my kids when I die here. I'm going to interact with a robot to even start thinking about it here. So this whole notion that high cognitive tasks like doctors and medicals and wealth management can't be done by robots. This is another indication. And so for those reasons, essential.
All right. I was essential as well for all the reasons you said. And the other kind of funny thing is I heard on the QT that Jamie Dimon, just before GPT 3.5 was released in November 2022, actually fired most of the AI talent they had. And so I think that, to me, that and of course then they rehired them, got new ones, but the difference between traditional AI and generative AI plus traditional AI is massive. And and this whole notion of the hybrid organization, like how you're going to combine, I mean, here we are, we're in May of 2025. If by December 31st of 2025 you haven't hired at least some digital workers and figured out what your organization looks like going forward with a combination of human and digital workers, you're going to be behind. Anyway, essentially it is.
John, one other quick point there, and I think here this is he's exemplar of a CEO who has their hands on the digital AI transformation and not just outsourcing it to lower levels in IT and using it as a checkbox for a board meeting.
Yeah, at the same time, I'm a little more cynical, in the sense that, I think he's pretty pecuniary and not that visionary, but whatever, he jumped on it. And one thing I do like about Jamie Dimon is after he got tossed from Salman Brothers, and he came to JPMorgan, to Bank One, he put his own money down and bet on himself. That's why he's a billionaire, because he took his own capital and put it in the company he was running, which I always respect. All right, next, Ankash.
Okay, the next one that we have comes from LTake Studio, and they have launched their latest open source video model.
Yeah, I was going to give this an important, I just thought it was amazing. It's open source and so forth. There's a ton of video models out there. There's 30 times faster claim and such. I mean, just, again, in the area of everyday miracles, it's just, you think about what's happening. Each company is going to have to raise the bar in terms of their communication. Back before, when you think about, and Luda will appreciate this, and maybe some others, before the Berlin Wall came down, Soviet TV, it was pretty boring, right? It was, it was awful. And as soon as the Berlin Wall came down, they hired, Western folks so they could come in and, do the quality of, Fox News, which I think to me is a leader in stimulus and interaction and so forth. We can argue about the content, but I think they are world class in terms of keeping the audience engaged with format. And more executives are going to have to worry about this inside the organization. You're going to be judged by the market and by your customers, by your channel, and by your people based on the quality of the interaction. And short form video is massive. I mean, there's just no question. PowerPoint, when you get up there with a boring old PowerPoint, you're going to lose in the competition against people who know how to use this technology, I think. Anyway, so I gave it an important as an innovation in an essential area. What do you think, Ashish?
So I was actually more on the optional side, but some of the arguments you're making, especially around the short form video. I mean, if you look at the recommendation economy of today, right? TikTok, Instagram, all of that, Reels in Facebook and YouTube, right? They're all short videos, and again, the creatives are creating those. What if you could just have an idea, have a concept, and you can kind of explain and build stuff like that? Last week we were at the AI community conference, and Eric Archer did a talk around how his workflow as a creator has changed over time, where otherwise he was going and shooting all of this footage, and now he's starting with an idea and kind of going to all these bots, creating images and then transforming them into videos, and then going to another set of bots, creating background score and interesting audio, and kind of is able to spin up these videos in a very short amount of time. These could be ads or whatever. So that workflow is going to completely transform. He's still going out with multiple bots and getting stuff done in the future. You can imagine all of that might be all set up in one kind of offering. So I feel these as kind of Lego blocks coming to reality to fulfill that futuristic dream where you can almost create with an agent, a bot, or whatnot. So from that perspective, having heard you, maybe trending important, I feel.
All right, Luda, you accused me in the pregame show of great inflation. What's up?
Okay, so I was on the optional for sure, and I asked Perplexity to give me a competition table, and what LTX video is not is it's an excellent on speed, and it's on the hardware requirements going into the consumer. It's open source. Those three make it interesting, right, and maybe important, but they are very basic features, very basic. So the other competitors have more quality and more advanced features that are almost like necessary to actually do the type of capabilities that are needed to do the good ads and the like, the lip syncing, the scene handling, the transitional things from one scene to the other. So LTX video does the basic stuff. So that's why I put it in the everyday miracle type of an announcement, even though it's great, right? And there are other models that kind of with the same capabilities. So for me, it was more on the optional side. I can live with importance, but I'm optional.
All right, Paul, what's up?
Yeah, I think Age of AI, Everyday Miracle, this is another one of them. I do want to highlight Shish's, the overall trend, though. I think at the end of the day, a lot of the internet is about communications. And the early days of the internet, everyone needed a blog to communicate. Now everyone needs a short video. That's the mode of communication and business and consumer and everything else. And we're just, I think 5 years from now, we're going to be overwhelmed with these small video things that would just convey emotion, everything in a way that the non-video world can't. But this article is Everyday Miracle and optional.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Then we're going to have meta and shrunk versions of that. I mean, on YouTube right now, you already see people doing things like taking movies and condensing a 2-hour movie down into about 6-7 minutes of highlights. Right? It's just it's amazing. I think we're going to have the whole notion of meta on top of that. Anyway, let's give it an optional. All right, Ankaj, big O, next.
Okay, the next one that we have comes from the Atlantic, and it talks about how something alarming is happening to the job market.
Yes, great title, very short article, unfortunately. What do you think here, Ludl?
Yeah, I gave it an important and actually can be essential. So we had an article from Wall Street Journal yesterday talking about the bots replacing jobs and the like. Here's an article about the recent grads are looking to find jobs and the fact that the unemployment among them is 5.8% currently. The article introduces or the gap, the new grad gap, difference between the grad unemployment and overall market unemployment, and that is down dramatically. For that reason, having that new measure, if you will, and tracking it, I think it's an important, if not essential, piece of news, right, to track.
Yeah, the other thing, Luda, that I would think about it as essential. I wish there was a bigger article, and maybe we'll write one about it. But the other thing is, as I interview our clients and talk to leaders of very large services companies, I hear a similar thing, which is that the more senior folks, mid-level to senior, so in a consulting firm, director to partner, those people are saying, this is great. I don't need to hire anybody else. I can continue to hit my growth goals and I can increase my profitability. And the leaders of those organizations are worried. It's like, okay, that's great. We can optimize the business for the next 4 or 5 years, but that's not a sustainable model if we don't figure out how to continue to bring people into this organization and teach them. So it's very, very interesting and very much a top of the house issue at some of the largest services companies.
Yeah,
So.
it's almost like you want to hire the grads, you want to train them to step in, right? And with AI, Ankash, if you can scroll down and show this, yeah, see the plummeting of that gap is of that number is dramatic. So yeah, it will equalize obviously, but I mean, something to watch.
Yeah, but you got to remember that every services company I know is driving their senior leaders on 3 variables. Top line growth, utilization, and profit and margin. And not hiring folks and hiring digital workers in the context of that. And off the cost of developing the digital workers sits in somebody else's budget. So it's a free good to me as a partner. Yeah. And so and they absorb a lot of labor. Anyway, what do you think here, Ashish?
And then, John, to add to what you were saying, digital workers, you can spin up, right? Scale up, scale down easily because they're digital. So you can bring them aboard and kind of once tasks are done, get let go or whatnot. And there is kind of no long-term attach in that sense. One other thing that, again, I was speaking to Mike, who's keynoting last week at the AI conference about how are we talking about this with folks who are in school right now, and he's like, we've given them mixed message, right, since the last 2 years, right, where colleges and schools were like, hey, AI is a tool to cheat and plagiarism and all of that, and then gradually that sentiment is changing of incorporating AI into the teaching methodologies and curriculum and stuff like that. So we've confused the new grads as well. So they've not been able to acquire these AI skills over time. Folks who have been in the industry had more incentive to learn and kind of adopt and embrace these things faster than others, while they are not immune to kind of layoffs and kind of all those things. But they're slightly in a better state because they were able to catch this curve and kind of learn along the way. And new grads actually were given this mixed message. So I feel actually they are at a disadvantage when they're entering the market and might not have the right skills.
Yeah, and Vivek is asking about the graduates who are equipped with AI skills. And my personal opinion that they will have an edge in that unemployment for grads market. Yeah, they will get those very precious spots, I think, first, before the ones that are not equipped.
Yeah, my dear friend and colleague, Anand Rao, who's now teaching at Carnegie Mellon, he is building a robot and basically creating robots to help you in your career is part of his course. So, you're building your posse of digital help. Anyway, Paul, where are you on this? Essential, important?
Yeah, no, I think this is an interesting topic. I think for the AI leader, though, this falls into industrial policy. Will AI kill us? It doesn't give concrete examples of how companies are dealing with this here. So in my mind, this is an interesting topic, but optional article.
All right. By the power, from the chair of Peter in the papal tradition on canon law, I am infallible. This will be essential. Okay, next.
Luda, I know that's where it was going here, but thank you for listening.
I know. Yeah, I told him that before we started that he woke up on the essential part of bed or part of the side of the bed. Or whatever.
We have the election results, but we appreciate everyone going in the vote in our democratic election here.
Hey, a lot of people misunderstand papal infallibility. It's only on issues of canon law when he speaks ex cathedra. So this is a matter of canon law. Next, Naka.
Next one comes from 11 Labs and talks about how Gaia cuts production time by 25% with 11 Labs.
Yeah, quite amazing as I was watching these different things. And I don't know this organization Gaia. It sounds interesting. I'm gonna start delving into it. What do you think here, Luda?
Yeah, I rated it as optional, even though the translation itself is interesting. So Gaia is a global streaming network focused on the evolution of consciousness. So they pick up interesting things to talk about: nature of the universe, ancient wisdom, the various alternative healing that is not commonplace type of discussions, and do it with quite well. So what this is talking about, they used 11 labs for translations, but they wanted to really keep the sentiment of the speaker and the intonations and the like. And they've shown here from English to Spanish and German. I can't quite evaluate that because I'm not fluent in those languages, but it appears to be quite good. However, there are no real results. It's just the capability. So, and it's a product announcement. So I put it as optional. The everyday miracle.
All right, head to optional here. What do you think, Ashish?
Yeah, I had it as an optional article as well on the same lines as Everyday Miracle. Some of the interesting stuff is that Luda talked about, right? 25% optimization that they're getting using 11 Labs. My own experience with 11 Labs have been phenomenal, right? It creates exemplar kind of content. I've not used Gaia myself, so I've not been able to kind of validate any of the claims that they're making. So for those reasons, I thought it was optional.
All right, Paul, we're headed for optional. What do you think?
Yeah, we're beating up this optional. I did want to acknowledge, John, after we finish this one, Valda Online agreed with our essential from the earlier article. So appreciate contributions from the audience. So thank you, Valda. But optional for this article.
The wisdom of crowds. Here we are. Okay, Akash, optional. Let's go. Next one.
Okay, the next one that we have comes from IBM, and IBM has launched Granite 4.0 Tiny Preview.
Yeah, interesting. The only model builder out there that actually has a rational naming convention, set of conventions. Anyway, yeah, and actually can run on, what is it, $340 worth of hardware? I think it's $350 worth of hardware. I just amazing performance here. Ashish, what do you think?
So again, it was a very interesting read. I mean, I was trending optional again from a scoring standpoint, but a few things that stood out for me. It's a very small model, and it can run on consumer grade GPU, and if not even consumer grade compute hardware at some point of time. So that was super interesting. The other thing is, if you pan down, Ankaj, that it's based on new architecture, right? Which is always interesting because, again, I think from all the way from Jan LeCun to everybody else is saying, hey, transformers are not going to scale to the next kind of big step up, and we need new architecture. So this is based on Mamba architecture, and actually they've created a hybrid of Mamba 2 and Transformer to bring some of the benefits of Mamba from an optimization and latency improvement perspective, and leverage some of the benefits of Transformer, which is paying attention to important stuff in the text. So from that perspective, it is super interesting trend that new architectures are emerging. But again, optional for now. I think so. It's one of those everyday miracles.
Luda, what do you think? Return of Big Blue here.
Actually, was unimportant exactly for the reason that Ashish said, because of the combination of, and it's open source, right? So it's totally open source and open weights, and it's a model to really pay attention to because of the new model. That because of the combination, they optimize the memory, they optimize the state, they now optimize the attention. So this is the step up in model capabilities. And for that, I thought it's worth flagging as important. Even though it's a preview, even though it's a product announcements, they're going to come out with the 3 models, large, medium, and tiny. So as they're announcing tiny to tell the world that they've come up with a new architecture. So I thought it was important for that reason.
Yeah, and I think we have to remember that tiny means at least 2 things. One is mobile, and the other is embedded.
Yes.
And those are 2 powerful trends for intelligence, to be mobile and embedded. And the other, I'm delighted to see Big Blue come back from the dead. Thank God Ginny Rometty's gone. She drove that organization straight into the ground.
Oh,
Anyway.
and another one that's important, Ashish would probably agree with me, that it's in the window now, that Ashish, go down a little bit, unconstrained context length.
Yes.
Think about that.
Yeah.
This is like we've been struggling with the context length or the industry, right? Is because if you give too much, then the LLM gets buried in it. If you give too little, it's not enough. It's like we've been struggling with it. The ability of this combination to support the unconstrained context length is tremendous. It will open up new capabilities for LLMs in general. So
Luda, what I was missing there was like some examples, some empirical evidence around does that work, right? So that was missing for me. Otherwise, again, that unconstrained context is super interesting.
And Sheesh, I was with you. This is an unconstrained vendor set of claims. And if it's so amazingly great, it should be really easy to get customer quotes and production stuff in here. So,
the voice of experience comes in and rains on your parade. All right. I was feeling essential vibes here, but we're going to go important for the architectural reasons. All righty. Next, Ankaj.
Okay.
The last one that we have for today comes from AWS and talks about from beta to breakthrough, scaling health AI from POC to production.
All right. Let me give and again, we get a vendor thing in here and stuff, but this health khaki thing, I think is, I was going to say important, maybe essential. I'm on the fence. The reason I think there's at least 2 very, very important things going on here. We've just submitted a paper with some folks from, with a leader from Mayo Clinic and Randy Bean, our dear friend, who's a leader in data, about to Harvard Business Review. We don't know if it gets accepted. That talks about a whole new dynamic on knowledge creation in science-based industries. One is the commoditization of existing knowledge, then the proprietary pushing forward of frontier knowledge that will give you a couple of year-long edge. And then they also created at Mayo a thing they call T-Rex, which does the administrative oversight of the creation of new models. It says, does this need to go to the FDA? And if so, can we get it through faster? So that new dynamic of knowledge creation, knowledge commoditization, and knowledge regulation, I think, is going to happen in every science-based industry. And in here, the government of Singapore is taking medical knowledge and nutrition and health knowledge and putting it out directly to the populace. And so that's kind of point 1. And point 2 is, I think the edge healthcare innovation will happen in the developing world because they're less encumbered with regulation, and they have at least as much need, if not more, than we have in this country. So, for that reason, at least important for me, maybe essential because it's paving the way for where healthcare is going. Luda, what'd you think?
I was actually on the more optional side, I thought that so they focused on how to take a POC, the proof of concept, and put it into production, and they have this general comments in the middle. But what this article, so there was nothing really new in there, and it lacked the application, right? So meaning the traction in the market of how people use it and whether they use it. I lived 5 years in Singapore. This is like a Singaporean government, very much so, orchestrated, proactive, putting something out there. It might or might not get used unless the government says it is to be used. And it's just, I agree with you, John, that this is the beginnings and an indication of where it would go, but I wasn't really impressed with the article itself.
Yeah, I always love the description of Singapore: Disneyland with a death penalty. Okay. Sheesh.
I was optional too for some of the reason that Luda mentioned. I mean, just stay on the screen. So one of the things that I loved was like, people are talking about my favorite topic, eval and testing, right? But it was only words there that I could find, right? No real substantial evidence. So they're talking about the right things from POC to production. You need to have a good sense of, is this viable, right? Are we kind of getting the bang for our buck, right? And what I say, cost to kind of the ROI on the model that you're using, all of that stuff is vetted out. So it's viable. Then you have a good sense of your eval and testing, so that when it goes and hits production, you know that what you did at the design time is going to translate right in production. And then working with the audience, understanding UAT and stuff like that. But again, a lot of words, no real empirical evidence.
Yeah.
So for that reason, it was optional for me.
All right, Paul, you gonna harsh my buzz here? What's up? What are we doing here?
No, it's optional, but I do want to highlight the trend. I mean, remember the internet days, we had WebMD was a really big initiative to get validated health information, and then put a lot of labor behind it and unclear. We're now moving to, AI-based health things, which doesn't have that human in the loop and is getting high confidence in terms of exception here. So this is, I think, an area to watch, but this article is optional.
All right, optional it is. Ankash, if you give us the tote. All right, any announcements while Ankash is doing that?
The only one I'm tomorrow, I'm speaking at Bentley University. They have a panel with their alumni talking about how to transform their curriculum to have their students more AI ready in all functions, particularly finance, customer support, and others here. So really excited. And they're really interested in working with and understanding where this is going, because they, as a mid-sized university, they're really feeling it right now. And I'm excited to be there, and it's 8 o'clock tomorrow, and kudos to Sean and others who are organizing it.
All right. For those of you, great new work there, Paul. All right, we have one essential in terms of, two essentials, JPMorgan and the very short article on what's happening in the job market, couple importance, couple optionals. Hope that this is helpful for your AI day. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And also, we are, you can always get these articles at gaiinsights.com/articles. And look forward to
and like and subscribe on YouTube, John.
Yes, on YouTube. Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Ashish.